Today, you probably closed a door without thinking about it. A bathroom door, a bedroom door, perhaps just the door behind you when you wanted a few quiet minutes alone. But imagine living your entire life without one. 3,000 years ago, the craftsmen who carved Egypt's most magnificent royal tombs returned home to houses where walls divided space, but doors offered almost no escape from the people around them. No private bedrooms, no silent corridors, no place where a person could completely disappear. So how did they live, love, argue, sleep, and protect the most intimate parts of life? The answer lies in Deir el-Medina, the ancient village where privacy was not a right, but a luxury. Deir el-Medina was not a palace city. It was home to the craftsmen who carved and painted the tombs of Egypt's kings. Their houses were surprisingly compact, roughly 5 meters wide and 10 to 12 meters long. Inside, several spaces followed one another in a straight line, separated by thin mud brick walls rather than private corridors. The first room was the busiest. Women ground grain. Children moved through the space. Animals could be nearby. Food was prepared. Textiles were woven, and daily conversations filled the air. At one end stood a raised brick structure known as a lit close, reached by small steps. Decorated with images of Bes and Taweret, it may have served as a sleeping, birthing, or protective space. But notice what is missing. There is no true private room. To reach the rear of the house, you had to pass directly through the life of everyone else. In this village, simply moving from one place to another meant being seen, heard, and noticed. Then night arrived. After sunset, the mud brick houses slowly released the heat they had absorbed throughout the day. During Egypt's brutal summer, temperatures in the Theban region could become unbearable, and the small rooms offered little relief. So the rooftops became bedrooms. Families carried woven mats, wooden headrests, and simple bedding upstairs. Across Deir el-Medina, people slept beneath the enormous desert sky, surrounded by neighboring rooftops separated by only narrow gaps. There was almost no acoustic privacy. A person could hear voices, footsteps, arguments, laughter, and the ordinary sounds of another family's night. To modernize, this seems almost impossible. But we should be careful about assuming that ancient Egyptians experienced this exactly as we would. Their society was deeply organized around family, household, work groups, and community obligations. Being constantly surrounded by others was not necessarily viewed as a loss of freedom. In fact, complete isolation could signal something was wrong. The strange truth is that these people may have possessed far less physical privacy than we do, and yet, in another sense, they were rarely alone. And that difference changes how we understand what privacy really means. Yet physical privacy was only part of the problem. Ancient Egyptians placed enormous importance on bodily cleanliness. They washed regularly, used natron for purification, and applied oils and fragrances to the skin. But inside a crowded workers' village, where was a person supposed to handle the most private necessities of the body? The archaeological evidence suggests several practical solutions. Some households used pottery containers or simple wooden seats with openings. Others could use the surrounding desert. None of these solutions created the kind of private bathroom we take for granted today. Instead, social rules helped create boundaries where architecture could not. The right hand was associated with eating, greeting, and other social activities, while the left was traditionally reserved for personal hygiene. The distinction was simple, physical, and powerful. But there was another rule just as important: restraint. In a village where walls were thin and neighbors were close, speaking too loudly, spreading rumors, or losing control after drinking could expose information that was never meant to become public. When architecture could not protect your secrets, behavior had to do it. When everyone can hear you, information becomes power. In Deir el-Medina, gossip was more than idle conversation. A damaged reputation could threaten relationships, trust, and even a person's ability to function within the community. Ancient documents preserve accusations, complaints, and conflicts between neighbors. One famous collection, the Salt 124 Papyrus, contains allegations against the Foreman Paneb involving theft, violence, and sexual misconduct. Whether every accusation was true is another question, but the existence of such records reveals how seriously reputation could matter. Think about that for a moment. If your neighbor knew when you argued with your spouse, when someone visited your home, or when you broke a social rule, how carefully would you behave? Would you feel safer because everyone was watching? Or would you feel trapped? Tell me in the comments, could you live for 1 month in a village where almost nothing about your daily life was truly private? Because there was another side to this story. For those with enough wealth, privacy could be purchased. But privacy did exist in ancient Egypt. It simply had a price. In wealthier neighborhoods, houses could become dramatically larger, with gardens, private water sources, specialized rooms, and spaces designed to separate servants, family members, and guests. At places such as Amarna, elite residences could contain hundreds of square meters of living space. Some included dedicated bathing areas and toilet facilities, luxuries that would have been unimaginable inside the cramped homes of ordinary workers. The contrast was striking. For a craftsman in Deir el-Medina, daily life unfolded within a tightly connected community. For an elite household, walls could create distance from everyone else. And that raises a fascinating question. Maybe privacy was never simply a human instinct. Maybe it was also a form of wealth. The more land, water, labor, and building materials you controlled, the more space you could place between yourself and other people. Today, we buy apartments, locks, curtains, soundproof walls, and headphones. 3,000 years ago, the principle was surprisingly similar. The difference was that the richest Egyptians could literally build their privacy into the walls. And perhaps this is where the story becomes uncomfortable. For thousands of years, humans have built better walls, stronger locks, quieter rooms, and greater distance from one another. We gained something extraordinary: the ability to disappear. But Deir el-Medina offers us another possibility. In that ancient village, privacy was limited, yet people were constantly surrounded by family, coworkers, and neighbors. A birth could become a neighborhood event. A crisis could bring help quickly. Ordinary life was witnessed. Of course, their world was not perfect. Gossip could hurt. Social pressure could become suffocating. There was almost nowhere to escape. But now think about your own life. If you could choose, would you rather live in a house where everyone knows you, but someone is always there when you need help? Or would you choose complete privacy, even if nobody noticed when you were struggling? Write your answer in the comments. Privacy or community? Because perhaps the greatest luxury was never having a room where nobody could see you. Perhaps it was knowing that somewhere outside that room, someone would notice if you disappeared.